Well, I think we have enough to get started here. It's 5 after. Thanks everyone for coming to the November 5th CARD monthly meeting. I'm Roger Rail. I'm chair of CARD and chair of SIA Residents for Safe Water, co-founder of CARD and its predecessor, IPC. And I've been, this is my 28th year working on this issue as a citizen volunteer, trying to make sure the right thing happens. This meeting is being recorded. If at any time you want to say something that you don't want on the recording, we have to edit it out or stop the recording and restart it. But one way or the other, you have to just let us know. You can use the chat to do things like that. Or you can just raise your hand when you're before you speak. I'm going to let Jack take over, our executive director, a new executive director as of a couple months ago, Jack Eaton, former Ann Arbor City Council person. And Beth Collins is our secretary of CARD. She's going to be watching out for people who want to say something. And you can either raise your hand on screen or use the raise hand feature on the reactions at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So Jack, take it away. I'm going to share the agenda and make sure we have some good, I want to do it as gallery view, so hopefully that'll happen. Share screen, and we'll do screen 2, I guess it is, yeah. Share, there we go. So now you should be seeing the agenda, or at least the top half of it.
Thank you, Roger.
Okay for everybody?
That looks good.
So with that, let's move on to item 2, the approval of the October meeting minutes. This is an item that anybody can discuss, but only board members can vote on it. Is there any discussion on the minutes? I have lost my participant. Just a moment. List. Okay. Seeing no hands raised, I will ask board members to vote on this. All in favor?
Jack, I got a late hand up. I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
There'd been a couple of emails going back and forth. It seemed like, I don't know if Roger had made some changes in the draft I had originally seen. So I just wanted to make sure we're all looking at the same minutes because I only saw one set. So I don't know if there's another set floating around somewhere.
It doesn't change. So the link that you have will update to the date minutes. I did add some additions.
When I printed it out.
Printed it. Then Roger added a few paragraphs or sentences, I mean, in some paragraphs, just some additions that.
Yeah, what I did is I went to the transcript on the video of the meeting and was following along on the transcript, reading through Beth's summary of the minutes, and there were a couple things that were in the transcript that I thought were important enough to put in the minutes, and that's what I put in.
Can you show that on the page of the minutes?
Let's see.
When did you do that?
Just yesterday.
Sunday night, yeah.
Or Sunday.
And I got shared yesterday. Let's see, I should be able to get to that here.
I could open them too.
Actually, when we put those in, you know what, it might be a good idea next time is when there's edits like that to make them a different color when they get edited in. Does that seem like that's feasible, Beth?
I'm muted. I think they actually are a different font.
Okay, let me see if.
'Cause I copied-
Then
It would be to just open the link. I know I've got them right here if I could share with.
yeah, whoever can.
You could go ahead if you can do it faster than I can. I'm just trying to find it here in the file.
I'm going to put it in the chat right now for everybody. How would that work?
Well, why don't you just go
Why
ahead and
don't you
share your
share
screen?
it?
That'd be great.
Okay. I've got them right here.
Because I can't find it right now.
Okay, I don't, let me see if,
That's
Oh,
a
wait,
Google
it's the
Doc.
10-5 minutes. I have them. There we go. I
yes.
was looking for November. And of course, it was last month's minute. So let's see what changed. I think that they're only different
Is
color.
that the blue,
when you're editing.
the underline
No.
like 921
No,
NSG
those
test
are like-
resolution with, right?
No, I guess, yeah, I guess
It's
that's
a
something we need to
lighter,
do for next time.
yeah, I'd have to,
I'm not seeing any different font on when I look at it now. I think that
It's
happens
that-
when you're editing it.
okay, it's the bottom 2 paragraphs on the first page,
Can
or,
you enlarge it, Roger? It's pretty small type on our screen.
Yeah, let me see if I can get to the bottom.
starting whether asked about the confidentiality agreement. That's what you added right there, Roger. When asked whether the confidentiality agreement under Part 201 takes precedence over other laws, Dan answered that with the MS4 program. That was the sentence. I think he just wanted a little more detail than what I had written.
Well, thanks, Beth and Roger, for working on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd appreciate it if in the future we wouldn't do that. I mean, you can always make changes, but make them easy to see. They're a different color, a different font,
And-
underline them,
And a
bold them,
notification.
do anything, but do
Notification.
something.
You know, if you use a certain function in the edit, it will automatically show up with a different font and a different color. I don't use
There
Google
may-
much to edit because I don't like it. But you know, if you put it in as a suggestion, if you edit the document using suggestions, then it shows up all the changes.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's-
we'll do something like that.
Okay,
For next
good
time.
idea.
I can help you, Beth, if you want.
Okay,
to-
great.
To talk through it, you know, we'll do a couple of examples. I prefer
Okay.
Word, but that's okay.
And I don't
Well,
like,
then-
I love
I just wanted to simply ask that why my hand was up. Just asking what the different slightly Greer font was, and that answered my question. So I'm lowering my
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
Unless the chair ED will recognize me, I will make a motion.
Well, let me ask
You're-
Mike first. Mike, does
You
that,
don't vote.
does that satisfy your question?
I guess Beth's response does that there was only a couple minor things and that it came directly from the text of the meeting. Then
Yes.
I don't guess I'm okay with it.
that is
I guess
correct,
in the future, I'd like to be able to see it specifically.
for
Yep.
sure.
Well, it
Yeah.
wasn't the text verbatim, but it was paraphrasing what happened in that text. Some of the
then-
text was pretty long, so I summarized it.
And a notice sent out would be great if it's late, close to the meeting.
Well, Roger did. He told us
Oh.
I'm adding changes. So that's why I
Right.
thought
That's what it
everyone
said.
would look. I thought
Okay,
everyone would
good.
look.
Yeah,
Oh.
all the voting members got notices of it.
Alrighty then. So with that, is there any further discussion of the minutes before the board votes on them? All those in favor of adopting the minutes as amended, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Alrighty.
Thanks, Beth
moving
and
on.
Roger.
Hmm?
Thanks, Beth and Roger, for doing it.
Okay, moving on to old business. We have an item number 3A regarding the confidentiality agreement. Do either Dan or Josh have anything to say about that?
I don't think Josh is on tonight, but I can update you. Yeah, I mentioned that we were going to do a formal request that's allowed under the Part 201 under environmental law. Our district enforcement coordinator will be generating that letter. That has not been sent to Gelman yet. We are in the process of doing that, but I will, can confirm that that is being done. I will give the CAR group an update when we submit that letter. But I was also told and wanted to bring tonight that, that EGLE and the AG, if the intervener's attorneys, that's a second part of that question. The intervener's attorneys file a request with the court, EGLE and the AG would join or support any request that is done through that path that way. So as I said, we will be submitting something officially to Gelman from EGLE under the Part 201 regulations, and I will update you when that has been sent.
Thank you, Dan. I think some of the intervening parties have a comment or two. Mike, go ahead.
My question is, Dan, is that a complete waiver, a waiver of data, or some subset of information? Your letter request that that Eagle's
We're going to ask for all information.
Thank you.
So yes, we're going to ask if we're doing it under Part 201. We're going to ask for all information that has not been made available to EGLE.
Thank you. Kathy, go ahead. You're mute.
There we go. Dan, I wanted to let you know that there has been some discussion amongst the intervener attorneys, and I'm authorized to say a little bit about that. They are in agreement that all data should be released. However, we currently have a stay while the case is being appealed to the Court of Appeals. So there's a stay on Judge Connor's involvement with these quarterly reviews. So the feeling is that it would be appropriate for EGLE to compel Gelman to release the information. Now, it sounds like you're talking about this, but I want to clarify. Will you be compelling them to release the data?
Define compel. We will be sending a request for data, request for release of submittal of information, data on the Gelman site as we do under Part 201. When compel, if you're moving it past of compelling them through some type of court or legal action, I can't commit, or I want to manage expectations. That has not been decided upon. But it was pointed out, or they wanted me to bring tonight, that if the interveners attorneys, the legal groups go to the, want to get together and go to the Judge Connor, as I understand it, that route, that EGLE and the AG would join into that and support that. So, the first request is going to be through the Part 201 request that we are authorized to do under the, I think it was Part 201 17, the actual number. And we will be pursuing that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anything further on letter A there?
Yes, Dan, I was going to ask for the number. It sounded like you don't know it at this point in time, or you don't remember it.
I don't remember it. I'd have to go back to my notes. I look it up. I look it up in the regulations each time. I don't like to rely on my memory of quoting and
Sure.
doing that, but I did point it out, and I think it's in your minutes that I found in the minutes that you were discussing, or was up on the screen here earlier. That I pointed it out last month. You know what actual statute.
Oh, yes, you're right. I see it.
Okay.
324.201.17.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay.
there's still a couple hands. Katie, Justice, and then Mike Moran.
No, I just did mine. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Mike.
Dan, I just wanted to say, when you have that letter ready to go, would you mind sharing it with our office as well, so we can all be on the same page across the board with that?
All right.
Thank you.
Already. I don't see any further. I apologize to Katie. I did see her name earlier, and then I just
You're fine. Don't worry about it.
spaced it out. Okay. Any further discussion of 3A? Moving to 3B. I don't see Evan Pratt or Dan Bicknell. Does anyone have anything to say on the MS4?
Yeah, I can give you an update of what's been going on specifically there. WRD, RRD, I'm RRD, the Remediation Redevelopment Division, and Washtenaw County, Evan. We did meet since the last meeting and kind of reviewed what would be the next steps. If you remember, Gelman has submitted a Allen Creek Drain monitoring work plan to Evan and to Washtenaw County and Evan. And Evan has, we reviewed that with Evan. EGLE did, WRD, RRD, and Washtenaw County. And Evan replied to that with our comments too, as an attachment, the EGLE comments. And they have not, basically that initial reply asked them to make some modifications, from our comments on the original work plan, and resubmit the work plan, and then instigate the sampling that was identified in the work plan. The first steps in that work plan were basically taking samples out of the Allen Creek Drain and measuring flow in sections of the Allen Creek Drain to start investigation or evaluating where groundwater is getting in, where groundwater is getting into the drain, with the idea of pinning those locations down, and then more investigation at those specific locations related to shallow groundwater that could be contaminated shallow groundwater that could be getting into the pipe. So like I said, we reviewed what our options are, or what would be the next steps, and what is being planned is another letter, as a second letter to ask that same, ask the same thing of resubmit the work plan with the suggested corrections, and implement the work plan. That has not gone out yet. It is being generated by Water Resources Division. So when that is done, it will be sent to Gelman.
Okay, thank you. Vince, you had something to say?
Yeah, I have an issue with the test that they're doing. We've done a test at near our banda before, and it was non-detect, and here we are doing it again. I think, the CART has talked about we need to be more effective and not waste taxpayer dollars. These tests should be done closer to West Park, where the ground elevation or the water elevation is closer to the ground. It's just the geology of the site. It's it's a very steep slope there, and I think more delays make Gelman very happy, and I'm sad to see that we're just doing the same old thing. Thanks.
Thank you. Rita.
Can you identify your testing? So I'm clear in taking the message back, your question, the testing, and you're referencing Urbana. From the Allen Creek Drain work plan, the Gelman work plan, is that what you're getting, that's coming from?
Well, there were tests done previously when the card asked for tests done in West Park, and there was some notion that maybe they should test upstream. That was done, and it was non-detect. So we know between Urbana and West Park, there's probably groundwater contamination, but we need to do some tests to determine that. And I think those would be the most effective. And if the card group has tried to help with this effort, and we were reviewed and not allowed to make comment, and that's unfortunate. CARD is very knowledgeable, and I think it behooves the community that the most information we can get, the better. Thanks.
So Vince, have you had an opportunity to review the work plan that they posted on the EGLE site?
I did to some extent, yeah.
Okay. It'd be really helpful if when we discuss this, if you refer to that work plan so that Dan can know what we're asking of him.
Yeah, that
this is what we've been asking for a long time. We need to be closer to West Park. We can't be upstream. We know it's non-detect upstream. So why are we doing those tests? This is what Gelman wants. We want to know where the contamination is. And that's why I think we need to look at closer locations to West Park. And we need to do it now. We can't wait forever for these tests. It just keeps dragging on.
Thank you. Rita?
Yeah, thank you. So I did not know the work plan was posted on the EGLE site. So I'm sorry, but I haven't read it. I am curious how this work plan integrates with the proposed consent judgment requirement for 2 wells in this eastern area. And is it integrated with that, those 2 wells, or is it something different? Is it specifically aimed at understanding contamination in the Allen's Creek drain pipes, or is it trying to get at the broader question of shallow groundwater contamination? Thank you.
The Allen Creek Drain Monitoring Plan is related to the MS4 issue, which is a basically contaminated groundwater venting into an MS4 sewer. And the point of compliance is where that groundwater goes into the pipe. And so this work plan, the consent order, the CJ order, does not specifically mention the MS4 issue. This is a separate regulatory issue that is being pursued, by EGLE and Washtenaw County as it relates to the MS4, the federal program, the MS4 program. So right now there are no wells associated with under that Allen Creek Drain monitoring work plan. Like I said, the first steps were determining where groundwater is venting in, where contaminated groundwater in locations is venting in. And then the second step would be to do sampling of that groundwater outside the pipe at those locations to determine if that is above at concentrations that would vent in into the pipe. So that there are 2 different. The CJ order doesn't have a section related to this work plan. Something similar though, the CJ order does mention under the Part 201 under the groundwater surface water interface requirements, and we have a criteria, and that is that is mentioned specifically in the work plan. So there will be investigation activities related to contaminated groundwater venting to surface waters, and that could be the Allen Creek drain. So that is mentioned in the CJ order.
Okay, thank you, because I do think those are getting confused in some of the conversations. So thank you.
They are. It is confusing, and there's two different programs that, like I've said in the past meetings, mesh together, and they don't mesh together very well. And but they are two different programs.
So thank you for that clarifying question, Rita. On item 3B, there's a bullet point, Allen Creek groundwater sampling, and that's, Patty, do you have anything more to say on this subject?
I don't. We haven't had any direction past the initial sampling.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
With that, I'm going to move on to 3C. An update on the wet basement testing. Do you have anything regarding that?
Yes, we sampled a basement last week near Waterworks Park on 7th. I should have the results back probably beginning of next week.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Any further discussion of 3C? I see no hands. Moving on to 3D.
Jack, I have some updates for this one.
Oh, ahead.
So I know last month we knew there was going to be a contractor. We didn't know who the contractor was going to be. But I have good news. There is a new contractor. So the contract has been awarded to Weston Solutions. Weston in September went through a conflict of interest query to determine eligibility for that. Not only did the company themselves go through conflict of interest, but they are proactively going to send anyone who's going to be working on the project through like individual personnel conflict of interest to make sure none of the individual people working on the project are going to have any issues. So they're getting started on any of the work, and then EPA has opened up a task order for them to conduct the site inspection. So they're getting started with that soon.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Mike, go ahead, Mike.
Was that Weston, WSTIN, or what?
It is Weston, WESTON Solutions
ON.
Incorporated.
And do we know where they're from?
So I looked, I know they have sites all over the state. I couldn't see exactly where their headquarters were, but I've asked a couple of follow-up questions. We're just getting information from the EPA. So that's one of the questions I asked.
Thank you.
I'll just point out that Weston has done reports in the maybe distant past on the site. I don't know if it's the same people, but some of them might know about it enough to hit the ground running. So it's good to hear.
Alrighty, anything more about item 3D?
Patty has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say the START contracts across the country are either held by Weston or Tetra Tech. They're the only two entities that work on behalf of EPA for this particular contract. They're all over the place.
Thank you so much for that information.
Mhm.
Anything further about the Superfund? Has anybody checked the EPA's Gelman page lately to see if there's any updates there? Apparently not. Moving on to 3E. The intervener update is attributed to me. I don't know anything new, so I'm going to turn my attention to Kathy Griswold and Kathy Knoll and ask if they have learned anything through their attorneys about the pending appeal.
And Jeff Hayner.
Oh, and Jeff, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll defer to Jeff. I don't know anything myself.
I haven't read it, but I just spoke with Postema today and he sent me a copy of their response to all this, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I don't know what's shareable or not. So I just got it. So I wish I had a better update for you.
Just so you know, if the city or its attorneys file a brief or pleadings with the court, that's a public record thereafter. And even if you get it even if you get it from your attorney, it's not privileged.
No, I know. I just I'm not sure what's all wrapped in his document here. So
okay.
Look,
So I don't have any additional information to share. I just got copies too, and I have not read them.
Do we know if there's a date for oral argument, or whether there's going to even be an oral argument on this?
I believe there will be oral arguments. That's what you're expecting.
All righty. Kathy's got her hand up.
Yeah, Jeff, do you mind sharing the information that you received today from Postema, because I did not receive it?
Yeah, no, it was just as a result of me asking for it on a phone call today, so I will.
Oh, okay, but then a question for Kathy Knoll. Is this information that all the interveners should have either now or in the near future?
I would think so.
Okay, I'll follow up tomorrow once I get it then. Thanks.
Oh, wait, this isn't the Gelman stuff. This is about the stormwater case he sent me. Oh, sorry about that. I gotta prod him for the right one.
Okay, well, I was talking about Gelman.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay. So Kathy, there is a Gelman document from our attorneys that we should be expecting very soon.
Sure. It depends on if they're sending you all the court filings. These are the briefs, 2 briefs for the interveners. So, but yes, I don't know if they always send you those, but our attorney routinely sends them to us.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'll double check tomorrow. And sometimes I'm given links because they're posted on some court website. Once it's been filed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just to clarify that point, very frequently the city attorneys don't provide that information to city council members, even though all of the other interveners receive materials from their attorneys. Any further discussion on that? Go ahead.
A quick question on that. You said that these should be public.
Somebody just pointed out they're probably posted on the Michigan Court of Appeals webpage if you know how to search that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. If we can have maybe we should have a page on one of the central websites, CARD or SRSW, to have an easy link to that kind of information. I know I'd like it.
So to make that easy on me, if any one of the members of this meeting have the docket number for the Court of Appeals case, it makes it easier for me to search it, and then I can circulate the link to those materials. Okay, moving on to 3F, updating our water treatment plant. Does anyone have any comments on that? That's attributed to Beth. So Beth, do you have anything?
No, I just wanted it to stay there for a month or so.
It's a good placeholder. Anybody else have a comment on that item? Then let's move along to item number 4.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that just kind of dies on the vine there, Jack.
Kathy Griswold.
Yes, I did have a 15-minute phone call with Milton Mahoney, and this was one of the topics that I raised as an example of sometimes council does not speak with resolutions passed by the majority of council, and I was still confused about who initiated this and why, and the hundreds of hours of staff and consultant time devoted to this project. So if I hear anything more specific, I'll let you know. But it just seems like there's some hidden power that's driving this, and I've yet to find out where it's coming from.
Yep. Alrighty.
Rita?
I just want to say that if you need any help with anything, just, I did look into that issue, and I'm happy to help. If it comes up again, I'm with you that I hope it dies on the vine. But if it does not, and it still lives, I will do my best to help you slay this dragon.
Okay, and Rita, thanks for everything you did and for speaking at public comment. And I'm going to stay on top of this because it's problematic, not just the topic, but the process that was used.
I think it has to do with tall buildings and needing more water resource, and it's poorly thought out.
I just want to point out that bad ideas go into remission, but they never actually go completely away. So moving on to item 4. 4A is the court order work plan and progress report update. Anybody have anything to say on that?
I have an update if you want to hear it.
Please.
I thought that was mine anyways. The court order, the CJ order update is Gelman has initiated the Western Area Monitoring Well installation activities. They have drilled 2 locations. Location K, which is in the CJ order. At these locations, they're doing drilling and then vertical profiling of the groundwater aquifer down to bedrock. At location K, which is on Delhi, they basically sampled vertically profiling every 10 feet once they encountered groundwater. All these samples that they were non-detect for dioxane all the way down to bedrock. So we have a phone call with them to discuss the results and discuss the geology and discuss their recommendation on the number of monitoring wells to install at each of these locations. At that location K, the monitoring well 142 cluster was installed. There are 2 wells in this cluster here, 142 shallow S and 142 deep D. And those were installed from 45 to 55 feet below ground level for S, and D was installed 185 feet to 195 feet below ground level. So 2 monitoring wells will be added to the sampling program at that location.
Dan, can I interrupt for just a second? I want to make sure that my Google Earth is being shared.
Okay.
Are you still seeing the agenda, or are you seeing Google Earth?
No, we see Earth. Yeah, looks good.
Dan,
yep.
Is this the right place?
Yeah, the Delhi, right between yes, between Jackson and 94. So they were up there at some location up there where they had access and installed 2 of the monitoring wells there.
And what was the other location? What?
Well, the next location that they drilled was location L, which is on Park, which and just to the south of Myrtle there, and they drilled that and went vertically profiled to bedrock, sampling every 10 feet once groundwater was encountered. That again at that location there was all the vertically profiled samples, groundwater samples were non-detect. We had a phone call for that location, as we will for each of these locations, and reviewed that information and the geology and hydrogeology encountered during the drilling, and we have, we came up with 3 monitoring wells: a shallow, intermediate, and deep monitoring well are being installed, or probably have been installed by this time, or just finishing up the installation at that location. The shallow is 48 to 53 feet. The intermediate is 130 to 135 feet. And the deep is 165 to 170 feet. So there'll be 3 wells in that area, 3 in the monitoring well 143 cluster area. Once they get those installed here, they will be mobilizing to across to the eastern area, and they will be doing some test borings along Valley Drive in the eastern area. And these test borings are in preparation and gathering information for the installation of the Rose well, what is identified in the CJ order as the Rose well. That it will be an extraction well in that area. And so they do these test borings, go down to bedrock, vertically profile, do a boring log, and evaluate the geology and then come up with a depth, a location and depth for the extraction well, the Rose extraction well, would be the best location based on all the information that's gathered. So they anticipate starting that this week. So they will be over there doing those test borings. There won't be monitoring wells installed there at this point, but they will be gathering analytical information when they vertically profile.
So somewhere in this.
Yeah,
this
along,
area here.
yeah, in that area, yes.
Yeah.
And again, it's being used, this information will be used to locate, to identify the best location for the Rose extraction well.
Where are they going to discharge their effluent?
Okay, the what? Once they have the extraction well in, Vince, is that your question?
Right, right.
Oh, that the Rose extraction well will be plumbed into the current infrastructure and taken across to be treated at the treatment system. So the Rose well will be, like I said, plumbed into what's existing, what is existing and coming from the Evergreen extraction wells and the Maple Road extraction wells.
Will that require them to slow pumping in other wells?
Yes.
Do they have the capacity?
Yes, the infrastructure, the pipe going back to the treatment system, there is a limitation on of that pipe going across from of 200 gallons a minute. So there are some requirements in the CJ order that they in the Evergreen area, they're required to pump 100 gallons a minute, and then Maple Road and then this new Rose well would be the other 100 gallons a minute. But the CJ allows certain manipulations. There isn't restrictions, so they can basically extract more at one location rather than another to be more efficient and effective. What I like to call remediation stress. They can stress different locations if they're getting more pounds of dioxane out because of higher concentrations at that location. So, but there is a total overall limitation at this point of 200 gallons a minute in the pipe going back to the treatment, to the red pond, to the property and for treatment.
While you're on that topic, Dan, is it true that this southern transmission pipeline is no longer, the southern one is no longer in use here? This one here that I'm blinking on and off, is that still in use, or are they using a pipeline along Wagner?
No, I believe, Roger, I can't say absolutely for sure. I believe that is still being used. What you have shown from over there from Valley, they have that deep transmission line going across, right. And then it goes to the lift station, the pump station right there.
Porter.
Yeah, the Porter Street there. And I believe there is, I can't say for sure that that other deep transmission is the actual one that goes across. There may be another pipe in there, a shallower pipe that takes it back over to the treatment system.
Because they have other purge wells along Wagner Road.
Right.
That have their own pipeline back to the core. So I don't know if they put everything through that new pipeline or if they're still using this original.
I would have to get into it a little more specific. I don't know off the, don't have that information tonight.
Yeah, and I don't have any schematics. I don't have any schematics for the pipeline along Wagner. I'd like to see those sometime. Thank you.
Rita La Crusoe.
Thank you. Just a quick clarifying question, because I'm not that familiar with how this is done. When you say they're putting in this boring for the extraction well, they're going to be sampling the water as they go down to bedrock. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what they're doing in each one of these locations.
Okay.
Rita.
And so they're going to take those samples, they're going to measure the one for dioxane, but that's not going to be a monitoring well.
No.
So it's not going to have a monitoring well designation. And I'm just curious where that data or how that data get, what's the word for it, communicated or even put into the quarterly report or into Rogers maps or the DEQ maps or anything, because it's a one-time shot.
Right. It will be summarized in kind of if you want to call it a CJ order summary report. We will, we request that information. It'll come to us, in a report or a summary, some type of summary report, whether that's a written report or an Excel file. I don't know yet. The last time they installed monitoring wells was in 2014, if you remember, the wells 138, 41. So they did a summary report. So
okay. Yeah, I just don't want the data to get kind of lost in the shuffle. It'd be interesting to know what they learn.
Rita.
Yes.
Rita, I think the it'll be shared the way they've been shared for other extraction wells, which is primarily by the well log. The dioxane level should be listed in the well log.
Okay, right. Even though it's an extraction well and not a monitoring well. That's
that.
Really what I was asking was because it was extraction well, would it be in the same database or would it be someplace separate?
Researchers like Larry Lemke take that and they put that in a database, and maybe that'll happen with the Rockworks database that EGLE has developed too. So that we can use that historical information to get an idea of what layers are contaminated.
Yeah, the drilling method and required sampling to vertically profile is part of the CJ order. So we will want that information. We've already made that. I've already had discussions. Okay, how are we gonna, what kind of summary report? How are we gonna get this? How are you gonna get this to us? So.
Yeah. And something like that must have happened for TW24, right?
No, I was given, we had the boring log, Roger, that I shared. So that's the only information I have on TW24 other than the current analytical that was started sampling in in July here.
It may be part of the information that's going to be made public once the confidentiality agreement goes away.
So then on some of the, that's the work plan, the CJ order. Another portion of the CJ order is the Western Area GSI work plan is mentioned, is identified in the CJ order. They submitted a work plan to us and we evaluated it and gave them a response back in an email on October 25th. Basically, we told them there, identified some deficiencies and some corrections or additions that we want made to their work plan, to their sampling plan to evaluate the GSI conditions in the Western area along the unnamed tributary of Honey Creek. So they will we're expecting that to be, that work plan to be revised and resubmitted, and then they will start implementation of those activities. They wanted to start this implementation in certain areas that are very wet, like the marshy area and the other reaches along the unnamed tributary there in the winter because it's wet, and they want to be able to do some of the activities, you know, in the summer or during wet, it would be very difficult to get back in there. So they have fulfilled that, you know, and we have reviewed that work plan. That work plan is also on our webpage. Under, I'm going to jump to under what's new here. I'll come back to the other one, the other bullet. You know, we're planning on doing some surface water sampling, including the Allen Creek drain in West Park, where we've done it before at the grate there, and along Chapin Street, and then along 8th Street. We're going to tentatively plan or trying to coordinate in with Washtenaw County on the 8th and 9th, next Monday and Tuesday. During those same days, and we will do other surface water bodies as we've done in the past. All the sister lakes, the ponds, the Honey Creek, unnamed tributary of Honey Creek, and then Honey Creek all the way up to where it goes into, or near where it goes into the Huron River, and then the Huron River where I've done it in the past, and then we will, you know, do that next week also, sample those.
Dan, can I ask you if you're going to try and do the Allen's Creek tests during dry periods and not during rainy periods?
Well, I'm going to, like I said, on the 8th and 9th, you know, it's supposed to be pretty dry. I'm not going to, you know, if it's a deluge, you know, we'll wait. But I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna get a sample sooner rather than later. And we've done some of those, we've always tried to do it when there has not been a rain event within a couple days. So we will continue to do that.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question.
Sure.
Is this sampling going to be done in conjunction with Washtenaw County? Or are you guys just doing it?
Well, Washtenaw County is going to help us by opening up the manholes and storm grate. We are the ones that will collect a sample and send it. And, you know, I've always done that and send it. The only time, you know, the Gelman has helped. If you remember back in 2019, we had a evaluation of the Allen Creek drain where we went around and sampled a bunch of places for once a month for 6 months or for 4 months, whatever it was, from from February through July. So I guess that's 6. And so what we, you know, they helped us out at that time, but Washtenaw County opened up the drains, you know, during that sampling event. So that's how Washtenaw County is helping us.
In terms of the sampling that will be done in SIO, will you be doing that exclusively then?
Yeah, all the other places that I get to surface water bodies, I'll be doing it with. I will have some assistance from our new district geologist that I'm going to show that, you know, is going to help me out.
Okay, thanks.
We have I have just received today the boring log for the TW29, which was the replacement extraction well along Maple Road. That's the well that Congresswoman Dingell visited when we were installing and drilling. So I'll make that available. And a TW19, you know, was abandoned. You know, that was a well that had a problem, got sand in it, the screen failed. So I received the boring log for TW29. And then the one issue, I just received word that the extraction well LB4, which is in the Evergreen area, that's one of the Evergreen wells that is mentioned in the CJ order. They were doing some maintenance on that, and they noticed sand and gravel in that well, inside the well casing. So they took LB4 offline and started LB1, which there's a couple extraction wells, LB wells, LB1, and then 3 and 4. They're in that area, in the Evergreen area. And they mainly have been pumping LB4. Well, they switched it out and are pumping LB1. But they are pumping less than is required under the CJ order, under the old CJ and the CJ order. So they're in the process of evaluating what happened. They're going to camera, I believe, LB4 and then come up with a plan to either repair or, replace or, just find out what the problem is there. I was just notified that at the end of last week. Then the next bullet, or the number 4B, that was new on the agenda. I wanted to make sure I understood a violation of Honey Creek NPDES permit and what action is being taken. Beth, can can someone identify what, make sure I'm talking about what you or why was that identified? I believe I know, but I just wanted to confirm.
That's right, Jan. That's right. I think, isn't that right, Beth? This is the violation, more than 7 parts per billion monthly average discharge to the unnamed tributary. By the way, I think it's high time we name that tributary. In Gelman's own hydrogeologist, Jim Brody, has named it. It's called the Sister Lakes tributary. They don't use that name, but I think it's a good name because it describes what happens, where that water comes from. It comes from both sister lakes, the Sister Lake 1 and 2. And then the other tributary to the south can be called the U of M drain tributary, which, because it comes from the U of M Saginaw Forest property. But yeah, that we're talking about the violation of the NPDES permit to
yes,
that.
In August 2021, the average monthly average was 7.6 ppb micrograms per liter. The current permit that they're working under is the one that they are in the process of renewing. That limitation is 7 micrograms per liter. Basically, they have fulfilled all the reporting requirements, identifying the problem. They put it on their electronic board for Water Resources Division. And then this month that they have corrected the problem. It's now it's back down to 5.8, I believe, in September, the September document. And talking with Water Resources, who handles the NPDES permit, so they were not in any, it's a violation that they were above that, but they fulfilled their commitment of identifying to EGLE why that happened, and basically that happened in August because of some conditions that came together, and the extended power outage. They had, during that time, they were also having annual system maintenance shutdown of parts of the system. And then they had also started the TW24. They started integrating, putting TW24, contaminated groundwater from TW24, into the system. And that new contaminated groundwater started giving them problems in how the system, and equalizing the system, equalizing the treatment of the contaminated groundwater. So that was one of the reasons they took TW24 offline and are figuring out and working out the bugs and tweaking the system to be able to handle that contaminated groundwater. And so they are, although they were above that, they have fulfilled the requirements and are not, there's not going to be a violation any further unless this happens again, unless it continues or, but has been corrected. If you look at the new, the September NPDES report.
But Dan, they
Yes.
said in the summary report, the reason that, like you just mentioned, the reason that happened was in part due to TW24, what was coming in from TW24.
Yes.
And then they issued a report to you about that. CARD has not seen that report. Now, in the old days, we used to get reports like that on a regular basis when there was a problem.
Well, Roger, I have not seen that report.
Let me finish.
And electronically,
Let me finish.
I haven't downloaded.
Because in there, it should say in detail, was it the concentration of dioxane that was causing the problem, or was there some other contaminant that's not as mobile as dioxane that could have been in the into the treatment system, and that's what's caused violation. And that it's kind of really important information. If there's other contamination that's coming in, it's bad enough that it's the highest purge well concentration in a dozen years, but if there's something else in there besides dioxane, we need to know about it.
Well, Roger, I haven't downloaded. That's through w.r.t. And really, I just noticed it and just started investigating, and talking with by email with the w.r.t. person. She gave me this update about the information. I haven't gone to their page and downloaded those extra reports that they require from Gelman. So I will gather information and report back and see if to answer your questions.
Yeah, I want to see that report.
Well, and just as a resident, like I'll take it off now that you said they're not out of compliance anymore, but as a resident who doesn't want them to put any dioxane or bromate into the creek, it was concerning. So yep. I just think that we were concerned, like, why is this, Rogers Well is there and Ann Arbor drinking water. And so yep. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, they fulfilled and under the NPDES permit, the requirements that they're required to do. So they notified the appropriate, the permit overseers. So, and then they fixed the problem and will keep their eye on TW24. They're, like I said, tweaking their system with the new, that new contaminated groundwater. So Roger, I don't have any other information other than that. I'll see what the report says and see what and get that information for you for the next CARD meeting. That's all I had under those bullets. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I would like to ask if there's any discussion amongst EGLE or EPA about doing samples of groundwater near West Park for determining if homeowners could potentially be exposed in the near future or distant future. The readings at West Park in the Allen's Creek drain have doubled every time they were tested. And why we're not doing more frequent testing is beyond me. But any discussion about doing some groundwater tests near West Park?
Vince, to make sure I'm on the same page with you, let's define groundwater tests. You mean of shallow groundwater, not
right near surface shallow groundwater, right?
Okay. No,
we know there's some contamination nearby. We just don't know where it is. We know it's in the pipe.
Right.
We still haven't done any significant testing to determine where that's actually coming from. And I'll just say, people don't remember this. Maybe they should be reminded that EGLE and EPA both cited those findings in West Park as pretty significant, which caused them to put out an emergency order. So it's not, like this is inconsequential.
I'm not quite sure what your emergency order reference means, is referencing. But there has not, at this point, there is not plans to do additional shallow groundwater wells in that area. There will be some completed in that area under the CJ order. There's a couple of 3 locations down along that area. We're going to gather this sample next week and see what the results show in the pipe in the West Park and Chapin. And there was some shallow groundwater just completed by the county in that area along in West Park, and then upstream to the west. We in 2016 we did do some shallow groundwater temporary wells in that area, and again did not have in that shallow groundwater as the current as Tetra Tech didn't get any either. It didn't have contamination or significant contamination, in the shallow groundwater. So there's not any plans right now. We'll see where information takes us related to implementation of the CJ order. And
Yeah, I think it's a concern, and I think the CARD group has made their concern obvious. And at 50 part per billion or thereabout, I think that's pretty significant. And if it's percolating in people's basements, that's a major concern I have. I think EPA and EGLE both have said that's a major concern of theirs. So I'll leave it at that.
We have hands raised, Jeff Hayner and then Glenn Hendricks.
Just real briefly on this topic, we had a presentation at the PAC meeting about the fate of the West Park band shell, and if you're looking for a place to sample dioxane, there's actually an active micro creek running through the corner of the West Park band shell foundation. And
okay.
So all the shuffling they did, they cut down all those 6 willow trees and did all that pushing around, and it has completely destroyed the foundation of the West Park band shell, and it's actually going to be moved. And so when it comes to the question of when that construction's happening, and they have fenced it off now because it's too dangerous. This may be a topic, and it's kind of the things that we've heard come up before, where we talk about the consideration of the prohibition zone is that people working in these shallow wells, shallow trenches, and trench workers, linemen, and stuff like that. I think that's going to be happening here in West Park. So that's all I want to say, because at some point we're going to be moving that possibly to a new foundation in a safer location in the park. So.
Okay, Glenn, go ahead.
Dan, I'm wondering if you can share your agency's comments on the West Area GSI work plan.
Yeah, I mean, I have an email. I can make that available, but just in summary, we have requested that Gelman expand they were really investigating kind of a one-time deal, and we wanted them to evaluate seasonal variations, and they presented some information that they didn't back up with current data, their interpretations. So we asked that for, that they have to, their evaluation was not unreasonable, but there was no current data relating surface water to contaminated groundwater. Is it venting? Is it a downward hydraulic gradient, an upward hydraulic gradient where groundwater would vent? So those are the main requests and from our critique that that we asked them to correct and implement in their work plan.
And could you share those emailed comments, I think you said?
Yeah, I have an email. I can, that's public information. I can make that available.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything further on this subject matter?
I'll probably post it to the web page, so everybody can get it. The actual work plan is there. I'll we'll put it underneath, the comments, EGLE comments response.
Thank you. All right, Roger, it's, I believe it's time for your update.
All right, well, I'm still waiting for the data that's been hidden for 4 years. So I hope the confidentiality agreement motion gets passed soon, so we can have full data to work from to respond to some of these work plans. We do have some new information from the company. I think you must have posted these just within the last couple days, right? And the third quarter maps, which I think this might be a record time. We usually have to wait a few weeks. Well, no, wait, it's already been a few weeks. This is November, not October. Yeah, so it's already been 4 weeks since the end of the third quarter. But here's the new deep well or deep aquifer map from the third quarter. What I do is I take these and retrace them and put them into Google Earth to get these kind of maps, so you can see them better. But I'll go back to this source version, and what you'll see here is that instead of the 85 parts per billion, they use 100 part per billion to replace the 85 boundary, and then they go out and do the 7.2 parts per billion. They don't do, because that's the regulatory action level, the 7.2. They don't do what they used to do back in the original days, which is show where the dioxane really is at 1 part per billion, which is what I do as an estimate for these Google Earth mashups. So you can see that these 7.2 boundaries are starting to approach where the dioxane really is. But remember, the dioxane, for instance, up here in Evergreen area is already 1 and 2 parts per billion here, and seems to be going up still. And 7.2 is pretty close to that. And if we actually go over and look at the, move this out of the way here. We look at the EGLE Rockworks maps and get back to it. Must be this one. Yeah, there it is. The Rockworks modeling estimates where dioxane is at different levels. And you can see that in this, the Rockworks use a 4 part per billion boundary in this pink area here. So that's already outside the prohibition zone because of this triangle property. And of course, that's just an estimate because there's not enough data to really show. The Rockworks model is just a model. It's only as good as the data that's fed into it. So that's why you see these gaps here where the 7.2 boundary is discontinuous. And so we don't know what's going on here. We don't know what's going on down here. We don't know what's going on over here to the northwest, heading toward this area up here. And more surprisingly, the Rockworks modeling showing something discontinuous here on the U of M property, Saginaw Forest. And that's a concern because there's homes down here that are on wells. There's no longer a caretaker at the Saginaw Forest, so there's nobody drinking the water at Saginaw Forest, but not too far away there are. Now, again, this is based on very little data, but that was a surprise when I first saw that. I've been asking for an export from the Rockworks modeling. I know for a fact that Rockworks has a built-in way to export Google Earth compatible layers. So all of this stuff you see here on the Rockworks model can be exported with the click of a mouse. And I'd like that. CARD would like to have those KML or KMZ export files from the Rockworks modeling. Because then I don't have to go and trace it by hand like I do the Gelman maps. I mean, I can understand why Gelman doesn't want to export their layers because they don't want to help us anyway. But EGLE, we're on the same team, I think. You should be able to export what taxpayer paid for. You should be able to export that, and us taxpayers could use it in our analysis and visualizations. So put that on your list of things that I still want. I still want all of the Rockworks layers to be exported in KML Google Earth format. Let's see, what's next? TW24, again, is that purge well. There's not any new results because of the violation, recent violation. They're still trying to figure out when they can restart that. So I don't expect that, but I do expect that there was a boring down to bedrock with vertical sampling all the way to bedrock, that TW24 used to install the purge well for TW24. I do expect that there really was boring to bedrock because that's what EGLE demanded, and that's what EGLE said in their brief to the court, is that any new wells after 2001 or whatever would be drilled to bedrock and would be sampled, vertically sampled into wet layers all the way to bedrock. So I really think that there's a boring log out there that should be shared. It shouldn't have to be, because TW24 says it was installed in 2017. And that was, during the period that there was either just before or just after the confidentiality agreement was signed. We got the well log for TW24. They actually started using it. It's been there all this time, but there's probably a boring log that goes along with that says either that or they did not drill to bedrock, and they did not sample every 10 feet like they're supposed to. It's one or the other. Either the well log exists and they did everything according to Hoyle, or they did not do what EGLE demanded. And either you answer that question, yes, they have it and we can't release it, or no, they didn't do it and we're going to slap them on the wrist for that. Because that's an important area to know what's going on in the TW4 core area. There are no other boring logs within that region. They've got some historical ones, and some of the historical ones did not sample to bedrock. They drilled to bedrock, but they didn't sample for dioxane all the way, or at least they didn't release that data if they have. We know that there's dioxane in the deeper layers from the early days because their own supply wells were that deep. They didn't share that data readily. It was only shared the double and triple digit parts per billion they had in their own supply wells was not shared electronically, not even on the 95 database that Kim Davis provided for us. So there's some gaps there that would be nice to be filled in, but you can't make that excuse for TW24. 17. EGLE needs to release the data for the boring log that led to the TW24, or they need to issue a violation from their rules about drilling to bedrock. I probably had some other things that needed to be covered, but I've sent it out to the CARD Corps. And I think at this point, I'll just jump to the next item. The Knights of Columbus property in Scioto. There's a property here that used to be the Knights of Columbus right here. There's kind of like a park. In fact, I think even before that, I think this, at some point, the Ann Arbor schools owned this parcel. Well, now there's a proposal for a development there with 49 housing units. They're going to have their own water supply well, which means there will be a provisional wellhead protection area for that, or should be, just like there is for the for all of these. Got to get to it now. For all of the daycare centers around the edge of the plume. Let's see what I'm looking for. Groundwater recharge. Yes, yeah, here it is. So it's going to be down here. Boom. So you can see there's already like 3 provisional wellhead protection areas for these daycare centers here, and I guess down here. So as I understand it, wellhead protection area boundaries are defined where they think a 10-year travel time from water in the ground at the elevation of the whatever well depth this is. It would take 10 years to travel here to there, 10 years from travel here to there, etc. Well, you can imagine that 49 housing units, 24/7 using water, is going to have a bigger wellhead protection area than these 3 daycare centers. So that will pretty much fill this gap here. And there's dioxane in these areas, so it may go all the way back to the core, in fact. So that's a concern from that well, if they put it in, of drawing contamination to places that it wouldn't have gone otherwise. Or maybe it is going there, but it'll go faster if they pump from that location. So this is a concern that's going to affect development. And if it pulls it that way, and all of these homeowners that are in the nearby area now have 2, 3, 4 parts per billion of dioxane sometime in the future, that's going to be a problem. So here's the Scioto properties that have wells. And I'll just turn on the vacant properties too, so you can get an idea that there's some vacant properties that could have wells. So this one, actually 2 big parcels in here that would form that development. But the other wells at Elizabeth could be at risk. There's already 4 or 5. that have had single digit parts per billion. By the way, there's one, Dan, you should know about this, because I think it's 3639. Your data doesn't show that this ever had dioxane. But if you look back at EGLE's, it was back at the DEQ, then the former Department of Health sampling. This was, I think, in 2012, maybe. So what is the DEQ at that point? They had 3 parts per billion at that well. And that's not in your database. But again, that's another problem, filling in the missing data that's significant, because we don't want that kind of thing to be happening here. Put all these wells at risk. We've already had this well at Breezewood Court show 1 part per billion. It's probably not 0 anymore if you use the 522 method. We don't want that to be happening all throughout this area. If we were strict and valued water as much as states to the east, where they continue to use 1 in a million cancer risk over a 7-year lifetime instead of 1 in 100,000 cancer risk over a 32-year lifetime like Michigan does, the cleanup standard would be 0.35 parts per billion, not 7.2. And we would already have them be providing water to these hits of 1, 2, 3, and 4 parts per billion. It's possible that Michigan may start valuing water more and may tighten the standards. And if we allow this dioxane to ooze out over time and contaminate more wells, there's going to be millions of dollars of damage to provide, and millions of dollars of cost. That's what the damage is, to provide clean drinking water at those tighter standards. And of course, that might happen even with 7.2. If you start getting close to 7.2, you have to start providing water. At the Evergreen area, that used to be part of Scioto Township, when those homeowner wells got to 2 parts per billion, they were provided replacement water and then forced to be annexed, because it's within the expressway loop, forced to be annexed to the city. So they got a real raw deal. They didn't get reimbursed for most of that cost. They got, sometimes their water hookup was paid for. The cost to the tap to the edge of the property was paid for. But sometimes the sewer connection was not paid for. And we don't want that. We don't want a repeat of what happened at Evergreen to consume the rest of Scioto Township and all of these wells here. And by the way, I'll throw in Ann Arbor Township's wells that could be at risk as well. There's a lot of people using well water, and that's good. Just like it's good to have local food, it's good to have local water. Michigan is very fortunate to have had the glaciers provide all this sand and gravel to naturally filter our water so that we have good, clean water. We have places in Michigan called things like sweet water for a reason, because we have way more than our share of good, clean water. And we want to keep it that way. Going to go back.
Roger, can James ask a question? And then I just have a quick question too.
Now's a good time for questions. I think I've pontificated enough about this. You have to unmute. James, we can't hear
James, you're
you.
muted.
James, you're talking. Your mouth's just moving, but we can't hear you.
Oh, well, myself, if I do that, I've been so careful. I'll start again. Thanks, Beth. Regarding the KSC property, this is a question for Kathy Knoll and for Roger as well. And Kathy, I'm not asking for your weigh-in with respect to the parcel personally. What is the status of the development proposal pending in South Township at this time?
Okay, it has just gone to the Planning Commission. They had the first hearing, as I understand it. There will be another hearing. The application is for a PUD, and there are many questions and issues that are raised by our planner and our engineer in their reports. I looked at their reports over the weekend. So there's a lot of work that would have to be done yet on it. I think there will be resident concerns about this when it becomes more well-known. And as I understand it, the location of the potential on-site community well is not delineated in the plans. Also,
Yeah, it is.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, and there's an
Oh,
alternate.
okay.
There's
Okay.
an alternate location too.
Well, that's the parallel plan. So whenever a developer presents a possible PUD application, they have to give a parallel plan, which is how the development might be built with the current zoning. Because with the PUD, the developer is asking for a change in the zoning ordinance. But if they don't get the PUD, they are saying they could do it with the traditional zoning and the parallel plan. Well, that is not clear either, because there are wetlands on the parcel, and usually with a parallel plan, they can't just plan to put homes everywhere. They have to consider the wetland implications, and that's not on this plan. So there's a lot yet to be resolved.
Is this for the parallel plan, not the PUD? Does this under the current zoning, or what is the land currently zoned as?
Oh, I forget. It's, I believe, 1 dwelling unit per acre, but I would need to check. It's recreation / conservation. I would need to check. I'm not 100% positive on that.
Okay, this is the old planning commissioner and me coming into place. I'm just curious how it's currently zoned and how the current master plan operates. And I guess, Roger, a question for you. Let me discern what you were talking about earlier. Were you saying that you had concerns if a well was to be utilized for this development here? Am I hearing that right? And pending that, do you feel that that there'd be some concerns raised by this body with respect to this development proposal?
Right. I was actually surprised that they didn't show where the provisional wellhead protection area would be for that well.
Okay. Unless there's, I don't have.
It's going to move some water. Let's put it that way.
Okay. All right. Thank you, both of you. And unless anyone else has anything, I don't have any further comment with respect to that. Kathy, I'm concerned about this development as well, and I'll be following personally from my own point of view. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Kathy, what do you think about drawing 1,4 Dioxane towards that development with all those houses going in or units going in?
we would have concerns about that.
Has that been discussed?
Yes, now it has, but it's, the discussion did not occur at the planning commission meeting. So this was only their first time in front of the planning commission. They have to go back a second time. And I see that as a major issue. There are also some setback requirements for the on-site sewer system that they aren't meeting in their plan. So our township engineer, OHM, is not recommending approval at this time.
Then, do you have anything more, Roger?
Yeah, I do.
Let's proceed.
I want to remind everyone that I was on a ITRC, which is, I forget what it stands for, but it's basically the staff people like Dan from all the states who work together on a peer-to-peer basis to attack various classes of problems. And there was an ITRC group set up for Dioxane a few years ago, so I joined that. And Dan Hamel happened to be on it too. At one point, one of the other citizen-oriented members of that proposed making the Gelman site an ITRC case study. Because it's such a massive site, because it's so unique, because it was mostly dioxane that, that one primary, it wasn't a co-contaminant of TCE or TCA or anything like that. It's dioxane by itself. Wanted to propose making the Gelman site a case study for ITRC. That didn't happen. Partly because it's so unique and so unusual and so complex. It wouldn't necessarily help a lot of the other dioxane sites where they have a lot of different kinds of contaminants. But it certainly would help understand how dioxane moves through groundwater, and dioxane as a metaphor for PFASs as they move through groundwater. And we all know that PFAS is 1,000 times more dangerous than dioxane. And there's instead of one compound, like 1,4-dioxane, there's like 9,000 different PFAS compounds. They're all over the country. They're all over the world. 98% of the people have PFAS in their system because PFAS tends to bioaccumulate and cause problems that mimic a lot of other ailments. And by the way, one of the things that they think PFAS does is it lowers the effectiveness of vaccines. Well, we already know what that's like. Just 18 months, 19 months, right? So having good information about how dioxane moves through groundwater, how long it stays there, and how to clean it up would be a good thing to know to address all of these thousands of PFAS sites that are starting to pop up. That other person who's from California, where they have their own dioxane problems, I met with him and contributed. He ended up writing a case study, the Gelman case study, and publishing it on his own through his own organization. I just wanted everybody to know that. I think another reason that it wasn't chosen as an ITRC case study is because I think there were people at EGLE that didn't want that to happen. And you could understand why, because there might be some dirty laundry there. So that's a given that we need to know about. We do know so far from researchers, mostly outside of EGLE, that dioxane tends to move in narrow plumes of high concentration. We have some of those images from the mid 2000s from Gelman that shows what looks like pipelines of dioxane moving through Wagner Road area. Now, if you see a channel of dioxane as a layperson, what's your first thought? It might be, where did this come from? Where is it going? It's like if you saw a stream of contamination on the surface, you would want to know those same things. Where is this coming from? And where is it going? In fact, that's how the dioxane at the Gelman site was actually discovered by Dan Bicknell back in 1984 when he was a student at U of M. He'd grown up in the area. He knew that there was this illegal stream of effluent coming off the Gelman site into the Third Sister Lake. And because he was a U of M master's student in public health, he was able to go sample that and get it analyzed and find the dioxane. He was the first to find dioxane running off the site at U of M. And yada, 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 he's back involved. He's not here at this meeting, but he needs to give full credit for discovering the contamination and coming back in the last 10 years and helping direct us in a way to get proper cleanup. So I just wanted to say that. By the way, when I mentioned earlier about dioxane being persistent, there was a study released just this last week or so that talked about half-lives of dioxane in groundwater. And the minimum half-life, I think, was like a couple years or something like that. But the maximum half-life, and everybody knows what a half-life is. You wait like a 10-year half-life, you wait 10 years, it's going to be half the concentration. The maximum half-life for dioxane in groundwater was over 300 years. So it really depends on the chemical and groundwater movement and all that at different sites. The average was 50 years for the site study. So if we have dioxane, let's say at 500 parts per billion, like we do here, actually this is more like 2,000 parts per billion. And Gelman's only proposing to clean it up to 500. So at 500 parts per billion, if the half-life is 50 years, then after 50 years, how much bigger is this going to be if it's not cleaned up? Are they just going to have to keep pumping? But we can't have these high levels of concentration hanging around, moving out in narrow streams in unknown directions, like what we've already seen.
So Roger, I have a question. Where does it go? Does it just naturally deteriorate?
It doesn't. Well, it doesn't do it naturally on its own.
So where does it?
Four things.
Okay.
You need four things. You need time. You need the right kind of bacteria. You need food for the bacteria. You need oxygen. And there may be a fifth one, I don't know. But if you completely mineralize dioxane, you get carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide and water. It's sparkling water. It's Perrier.
Yep. Okay,
Back
so
in-
we're at that. We're at
Paul
that.
first took over.
We're
When
at
Paul
that.
first took over, their vice president was in town. I said, you know, you guys are a high-tech filtration company. You should turn a sow's ear into a silk purse. Bottle this, completely mineralize it. Spend more on treatment systems and things like that, and less on lawyers and running to the court every time you have a violation. And completely mineralize it. Spend a little bit more on marketing. Sell it for 50 cents a liter and make $1 billion. But that's not, of course, what their business model is.
So we're at that point.
So
we're at that point in the meeting now where we should move on to the last item, which is the non-agenda items. And so if
Thank
you
you,
could,
Jack,
if you could conclude, I would appreciate that.
I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm done.
Does anyone have any non-agenda items that they would like to discuss at this meeting at this time? Go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to note, since nobody else had one, that for those who were looking for the citation to the Court of Appeals case, Jeff has put it into the Jeff Hayner has put it into the chat column. So it is, see, I wrote it down somewhere. It's case number 88-34734-CE. Charlie Easy.
I hope that's correct. I think it is.
I hope it is too, because I just spread it around.
Yeah. I mean, I looked it up but it's, like 88, like that's when they entered the first CJ, and this one refers to the fourth. And so I think that's it.
Okay.
So I took a quick look at the docket using that number, and it includes just everything, including the leave appeal by leave that was denied in the subsequent appeal of that particular portion of the case to the Supreme Court. So it'll take some sorting through that before I distribute anything to the email list. But I do appreciate you looking up that number for me.
Yeah, and higher thing. Yeah, it's no problem. And then higher up, they posted the last update to the EPA Gallon page was on April 15th. So I don't know if that's, you were thinking there was anything newer than that or not, but
that answered my question.
Okay.
And so it appears that no is the answer.
yeah.
I'll just
that's what I
point
thought.
out there's another link here in the EGLE's government website page that has a whole page of legal documents. It's probably not as comprehensive as the court thing because it doesn't go into that much detail, but these periodically get posted. And so sometimes you can go to that, and it tends to be more of chronological order, but getting to some of this data is, you might have to do it more than one way.
Okay, so thank you. So Beth, you want to announce the
Rita?
next?
Oh,
Yeah, just a quickie for the non-lawyers of us. You spoke several times about checking on the docket. Could someone please just put that URL for searching court cases
Good idea.
into the chat?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I didn't cover C. I'll be contacting those people that volunteered to look at website layouts to try to set up a time or a series of times to review the various websites and what we want as a card website, maybe transferred from SRSW, et cetera, et cetera. So those of you who know who you are, you'll be getting emails sometime soon. That's all. Sorry, did that out of order.
Not a problem.
and
Beth-
our next meeting is the quarterly meeting in December. And anything else, Jack?
Well, I was going to try to post that in the URL. I'm just going to send that out as an email
Okay,
instead.
thanks. I appreciate it.
And with that, I'm going to conclude this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Welcome to the
I may be,
new people that joined us.